I was going to say hi, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
hi, Kate.
I'm not high today.
Oh, that's right. We went to the football on the weekend, Kate, and I had my first drink in over a month.
How
I
was
think
it?
it was. Oh, it was something else.
It was a lot. How was the time after the party?
Oh, we only stayed for a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, Everyone wanted to get to bed.
Yeah.
But anyway,
It's a big day.
football, it's a lot to see.
Football. How about it?
Hi, Kate.
Hi, Dom.
How are you?
I'm well. I am still reeling from last week's episode, especially dodging all of the social media posts that made my skin crawl even further.
Oh, I can't even remember what they all were.
It was too many. Too many for me to feel comfortable.
Too much graphic material.
Yeah. But we're here. We're you're queer and we're having a great time. And we're going to have a cool story today, another one of my combination of mini stories. And I have come up with a great title for today, which you would have seen if you've clicked on this. But in a little bit after we've done some bits and bobs, I will get into our construction cock-ups episode.
I love designing all the social
Episodes are
stuff where
oh
it's
yes.
like, what's it called? Like, if people are going to figure it out, oh, do I get
Yeah.
to write a naughty word? And what can I say, folks? Cock is one of my favorite words to write.
Mm. It's so nice.
Oh, I can't wait, Kate. This one hopefully is going to give you a bit of relief after last week's heebie
Exactly.
jeebies.
Yeah, I've tried to stay away. So I've got off the heebie-jeebie train and moving into another area entirely. But Dom,
But, Kate.
before I do that, do we have any
Housekeeping.
housekeeping? Oh, that was rather morose and intriguing.
Well, we've got to shake things up a little bit.
We do.
Yes, we do have housekeeping because, folks, you are missing half the fun if you're not checking us out on all of our social media channels, which
Correct.
is like shitten.bricks.podcast. And it's very easy to find. So come
Yep.
say hi and play with us.
Please do. Engage.
Yeah.
Engage.
And then each week, Kate and I, for I don't know how many weeks now, but we're not stopping anytime soon. We've been giving bonus episodes, like one a whole week. So where do you get them, Kate?
I think that you get them on Patreon. And if you sign up to be one of our brickies, you too can listen to those. And they're a lot of fun. They are linked in with our weekly episodes, but they might be a little bonus story. They might be a little bit something extra. I don't know what mine's going to be today, purely because it's dependent on how much of this incredible story we get through. And then I always put a little something something at the end for our brickies.
A
So
little
yeah, so join
sugar.
in so that you can come and come play.
Love it. Yes. Check us out on Patreon, which again is shitten.bricks.podcast. You can't miss it. It's on all of our links.
Yeah, do it.
And then, oh yeah, before I forget, this is our year of ratings and reviews, and they've been flooding in just on channels we didn't know about, Kate. So keep it up, folks. It's very helpful. We're very grateful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Nailing
And
it.
I know. And last but not least, this week's BooPod Network podcast feature is the amazing Amy, like our
Amazing,
sister.
Amy. Yes.
You know, what would we do without Amy?
Not a lot.
Um, that could be a movie. What would I do without Amy? I
What
could
would I
see that on a poster.
Yeah,
Or what
same.
would Amy do?
What would Amy do? I'm going to see, whilst you're doing that, I'm going to see. What would
But anyway, this week we are featuring Amy's podcast, The Activity Continues. Um, it's just amazing. Go check it out. It's hilarious and funny and different to all the other BooPod Network podcasts. So here is the I keep forgetting the promo
promo?
for The Activity Continues. Boopity boop boop
Bop,
boop
boop, boop,
scoop.
bop.
Kate,
Yes.
you were looking something up. What did we find?
Well, I was looking up what would we do without Amy? And if you type in what would we do without A, then you get what would we do without animals? What would we do without animal testing? What would we do without agriculture? What would I do without your smart mouth? Oh,
Ooh.
stop. Don't threaten me with a good time. What can you live without a gallbladder? What can't you live without a liver? What can't we live without? But there is no films that come up with what would we do without Amy, aside from videos of Amy Winehouse, and then a schmoop.com literature study guide, Amy Hertz in I Am the Cheese.
And that is the perfect end to housekeeping.
Yay! Okay,
Oh,
Dom.
okay,
Well
Kate.
done on housekeeping. Thank you for that, as usual. Doing all of the work whilst I sit about, get poisoned by mushrooms, and climb up a tree. I have for you this week a phobia. So we need our phobes for our learnings. And the question for you is, if the thought or an encounter with a large building, vehicle, or other object causes intense anxiety and fear, then you might have megalophobia.
Megalophobia.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
misleading.
it is misleading, but it's also known as the fear of large objects. This condition is marked by significant nervousness that is so severe you take great measures to avoid your triggers. It may also be serious enough to interfere with your daily life, as all phobias are. When you have this condition, you may be fearful of encountering large objects, such as tall buildings, including skyscrapers, statues, and monuments, big spaces where you have feelings similar to claustrophobia, hills and mountains, large vehicles such as garbage trucks, trains, and buses, airplanes and helicopters, boats, yachts, and ships, large bodies of water such as lakes and oceans, and big animals, including whales and elephants.
So it's big. It's very size
It's size
specific.
specific, correct. You may have heard of the movie The Megalodon, which is
Yeah.
about a ginormous shark. So, that would also fit in that list. However, I'm not going to be talking about, sadly for everyone, I'm not going to be talking about whales, elephants, garbage trucks, trains, helicopters, boats, yachts, ships, or hills and mountains, but I will be talking to you a little bit about some buildings and skyscrapers. So if megalophobia is on your list of ever emerging phobias, then this is a trigger warning for you.
How many
I'm going to
people?
talk about.
How many people have started listening to Shit and Bricks and have now got 6 or 7 phobias that we've
Yeah, they're like,
crammed down their
I
throat?
never knew I had that. Turns out I do.
Oh, sorry,
Dom,
folks.
the whole impetus of this, was my very, very detailed. Where is it? There it is. My very detailed research list, which looked a bit like this. It's 3 scribbles that says Hoover Dam, Deepwater Horizon oil rigs, ? With a whole bunch of my signatures. I had to practice for some legal documents. I will start you off today with the Hoover Dam.
Okay.
One of the reasons I wanted to talk about the Hoover Dam is because I watched an exquisite documentary on it. Megastructures was what it was called. So it was a series of, information about how megastructures were built. And the Hoover Dam was one of the most intriguing episodes that I watched. So we're going to do a little bit of learning about that. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about why this might work on a Shit and Bricks podcast. Because,
Sure.
Naturally, I'm not just going to talk about the Hoover Dam for an hour, because you'd be like, how is that something that's freaky, creepy, scary? We're going to get into all of that. So do not fret.
Kate always
But
finds
for
a way to
now-
make things scary.
Yeah, I mean, at least make you think a little bit about what might freak you out if, some of these things were to happen. All right, the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam is one of the largest man-made structures in the world. At the time of its construction in the 1930s, it was most definitely a unicorn of a project. There was no other project out there like it. Today, the Hoover Dam provides yearly electricity to over 1.3 million people across Arizona, Southern Nevada, and California. The Hoover Dam was built for three main reasons. Flood control, to provide irrigation water, and then to produce hydroelectric power. Flood control was the main reason that the Bureau of Reclamation decided to take on the project. Today, tourism is another added bonus for the dam. Over 7 million people visit the dam every year.
I just find that so funny, right? Like, yeah. Ooh, let's go visit a dam, shall we?
Yeah, let's go look at the dam. Have a look at this. It does stop the water from rushing through. All right, well, come on, Dal. Get your coat. We're leaving. Yeah. Folks, there it is. It only took us 4 minutes for the first dam joke. Now, every year, spring melt from the Rocky Mountains. Are there multiple?
Yeah.
Rocky Mountain. Okay. That would flood farms along the Colorado River. The dam solved this issue while also addressing the need for power. Damming the river created more space for farmland as well as a water basin to use for irrigation. Plans for the dam took over 30 years of research, lobbying, organisation, and design. 30 years of research. And we're talking, this is the 1930s, so it's, sorry, I cut you off.
No, it was just, I cut you off. I'm damn sorry about that, Kate. But imagine if your whole life was like just to build this one dam, that your whole project, I'm like, oh, okay. A bit sick of this dam.
I'll be damned if you're going to get me to work on this for another year. Sorry, guys, we will stop, I promise. Now, Arthur Powell Davis, who was an engineer at the Bureau of Reclamation, conceptualized the dam back in 1902. The beginning of the 20th century marked a major time of change for the river. The Colorado River, before this time, was an unchecked flow of water that moved against high canyon walls at the mercy of rainfall and spring melt from the towering Rocky Mountains. Between 1910 and 1970, numerous dams were built that ultimately reshaped the river, creating a complex flow of water reservoirs and diversions. The actual construction of the Hoover Dam took place between 1931 to 1936, right in the midst of the Great Depression. It was overseen by Chief Engineer Frank Crowe. With so many large and mega construction companies out in the world today, it may be hard to believe that in the 1930s, there was no real company big enough to take on the project of building the Hoover Dam. Because of this, Utah construction companies started working with other construction companies in the area to build a consortium of construction firms until they all together were big enough to bid on this project. So they were like, well, me and Jim can't do it on our own. But if we get me and Jim and Sally and Ted and Johnson from down the road, maybe we'll do that. So they put themselves together. And at first they worked with Morrison Knudsen. They're now the Washington Group International. I knew you were going to pick that up. So
of course. Thanks, Kate.
By the end of the talks, there were 6 companies. This is my favorite. The 6 companies had come together for the project. Together, they made up 6 Companies Incorporated.
So damn creative.
How good's that? They're like, okay, well, there's 6 companies here in the boardroom. Oh, shit, anyone got an idea for a name?
The Big Six.
The Big Six, baby. Now, the 6 companies in question were Utah Construction, Morrison Knudsen, Kaiser, Bechtel, Pacific Bridge, and McDonald and Kahn. 6 Companies Inc. was created in February of 1931 and went on to complete a few other large projects. The 6 Companies Inc. bid for this project the equivalent of $674 million in today's money for that project. So their bid was quite substantial, and it was almost $5 million less than the next bid, which made them a clear choice for the project.
If you do think about it, though, Kate, like 650 whatever million or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like a lot of money, but it actually really isn't. Like,
The Hoover Dam's massive.
exactly. Like, in today's money, like,
Mm.
think about the upgrades that are happening to our public transport train
Oh,
system.
billions.
Billions of
Correct.
dollars.
Yeah.
Here's just a few $650 million. I'm going to
Yeah.
build one of the greatest structures of
Of human
humankind.
history. Correct. Exactly. So yes, it's interesting, but that was 5 million less than others. So they're like, yep, okay, well they're the cheapest. And again, we're the 1930s, midst of the Great Depression. So there's not a lot to go around.
Yeah.
After surveying and choosing Black Canyon as the spot to build the dam, explosives were used to blast away the sides of the canyon for construction. 4 diversion tunnels were built to redirect the water while the dam was built. Dredging the bottom of the canyon, blasting and removing debris, and digging to just build the foundation took over a year, which to me that seems like quite quick.
Yeah,
For the
that's not
sheer
bad.
size of it, I thought that was all right.
It's a lot of blowing up.
Yeah. Now, because the dam was in the middle of nowhere, or it was in the 1930s, much of the labour was done by hand. Moving debris, drilling holes for explosives, and levelling the foundation required constant work by labourers. Giant concrete blocks were fitted into place and used to build the dam itself. The whole project, or the whole process, building the dam as well as the powerhouse and generators, cost 165 million USD. It's
Not
cheap.
bad. Pretty
Cheap
good.
for a dam. Now, over 5,000 workers were employed to build the dam. The lowest wage was 50 cents an hour and the highest was $1.25. The average for all the workers at the dam was about 62.5 cents an hour. Working the dam construction meant really long days and dangerous work. Temperatures could drop to 120, could top 120 degrees during the day. Now that's just over 48 degrees Celsius in the summer, and then they would drop well below freezing in the winter. The blasting, I know it's chilly. The blasting and explosive used during construction, as well as the digging and building in the desert, it created terrible air quality on the site. Now, workers actually went on strike for a portion of the summer in 1961. Their demands included ice water, flush toilets, and that the 6 companies follow mining laws since they were blasting through bedrock and digging diversion tunnels at the time. Now, despite all of these challenges, employment at the dam was a sought-after gig. Some men and their families moved up toward Nevada in 1929, hoping to reserve employment. The dam was built right in the middle of the Great Depression, so the idea of long-term employment, no matter how dangerous it was appealing.
Kate,
Yes, Dominic.
I just did some quick little sums, and that average hourly wage, in today's money would be $10.69.
Oh,
Imagine those folks hearing what you and I get paid. And I mean, like, you and I aren't
yes. Exactly. We're not
uh,
gillionaires, but we can afford, 4 to 5 subscription services a month.
Yeah, well, we're very well off in comparison. Anyway, just
Definitely.
thought that was interesting.
that is interesting.
$10.69 to build this thing.
And the work was not, they're not from the documentary, not so much from this article. I'm going to add in some of my own little tidbits that I remembered from the doco after I've gone through this article portion. But the work was ridiculous. I will talk a little bit to that in a minute. But for $10 an hour, I would not for what they had to do. Now, Boulder City, Nevada, was constructed to house all the contractors working the job and their families. Here's what I found disappointing, okay? I hate researching things because rumor has it that they didn't take care of their workers that well.
Yeah.
And particularly when they were building the concrete structures and laying the concrete, there were lots of stories about what had happened to some of the workers when they were laying the concrete. Now, I'm terribly sorry, but despite what the stories say, no bodies were buried in the concrete of the dam. I thought they were, but I'll tell you a little bit as to why. Plenty of people died. Don't worry. Heaps of people died, but they just didn't get buried in the concrete, which made me a bit upset because I was like, shit, that's a pretty good bloody story if you got dead bodies in there.
Yeah, one day in the future, Bill's bloody skeleton is going to be found in the dam. You're like, it's a hard laugh.
So the dam comprised of nearly 4.5 million cubic yards of concrete. It's all broken up into sections and there's lots of concrete in each of those pieces. Now, each one of those slabs had to be allowed to set before the next one could be poured. Between the pouring of the concrete and the setting, it would often take hours before a section would be finished, giving a not so sure-footed worker plenty of time to get themselves out of an eternity of holding back the Colorado River. So it took ages for it to set. But even if that's not convincing enough, engineers would do their best to keep a body, dead or alive, from being set in the dam's concrete. This is why the human body is comprised of degradable organic material, unlike steel rebars typically used in large concrete projects. So the decayable material causes a lot of issues for a large block of concrete. A decaying body would eventually form an air pocket within the concrete, decreasing the stability of the blocks over time. The weight of the surrounding concrete, coupled with the force of the restrained river, would eventually compromise the structural integrity of the dam. So they did a really important job of making sure no bodies went into the concrete.
It's not a good look.
Very good. It wasn't a good look.
No.
Now, saying that, officially, 96 people died during construction. They say officially because these numbers included mainly the on-site and construction deaths. So if you're struck by falling debris, blasting, construction-related deaths, they were included in that 96.
Okay.
Now, some sources, however, they cite up to 114 deaths, which include those who drowned or fell whilst surveying the land before construction. Anybody who died from heart problems, heart-related illness, dehydration, issues with the air quality, not necessarily directly related, they weren't included in that number.
I just love this, like that even before they start construction, they're like, oh, a few people have died trying to find the right spot for this place.
Yeah, that's like, right. Yeah,
we're setting ourselves up for success here. This is going to be a great project.
Yeah. Where's
Bill? Oh, Bill's dead.
He fell in the river. We're not sure. Hope he can swim. Some of the things that I remembered from the documentary that I found astounding was when they're going down the canyon, so the sheer cliff sides, but they had to they didn't have big machines and stuff. So once the blasting parts were done for all the huge sections of concrete, they had to smooth out all the sides. So these guys would quite literally have a plank of wood, imagine the size of a swing set from playground, and then just a couple of pieces of rope, and would sit on that swing with their little hammer and chisel and just go down the sides of this sheer cliff face, hundreds and hundreds of meters up in the air, and just chip away all day. And because they were doing that, there was a whole bunch of them, rocks and things would fall, and they didn't have any hard hats during this time. So what they did was that they got 2 baseball caps, and they put one facing forward and one facing backward, and kind of held them together and then dipped them in tar. And then they created like makeshift hard hats for themselves.
Oh my goodness, that's stupid.
Right. So they would put those on because they're like, geez, I'm really sick of getting struck with rocks. I might just make myself a little tar hat. Yeah. So they would put that on and did that. In addition, they did chat about the dead bodies in the concrete, but that has since been debunked as of 4 minutes ago. So forget it.
Heard it here.
You heard it here, not first, but you did hear it here. So let us know.
First for somebody.
Yeah, it is pretty incredible. If you do get the chance to watch that Mega Structures doco, I highly recommend it. Now, today, the Hoover Dam, they've adapted it from an electric plant to electric power plant and a storage plant that they're going to put in there. There's lots of stuff that they've done to create like a super battery so that if there's droughts and things, there'll still be energy created and stored and all of that sort of stuff. So it is still one of the greatest, modern construction projects.
And Megatron is housed there.
Megatron.
Yeah.
That's right.
He was hanging about down there. And the Allspark or something was down there. Okay. There's Transformers in Hoover Dam, folks.
Okay, understood.
John Voight's on it. Don't worry.
Don't worry about it. Forget it. Now, one of the other dam stories I just want to talk about was happening around the same time that the Hoover Dam was built. So where some people might have got the idea that bodies were buried in the concrete of Hoover Dam, it could have come from this little quick story about the Fort Peck Dam. Now, the Fort Peck Dam was the world's largest earth-filled dam, so it's kind of a retarding basin. Now, it was not, the same in terms of construction. So it wasn't high, it was wide.
Yeah.
However, what happened was that 8 workers were buried alive during the construction of this. So on September 22nd, 1936, a section of the dam broke loose and slid into the man-made Fort Peck Lake. Of the 8 workers that went with it, only 2 of them were ever recovered from the accident.
Oh.
And whilst Fort Peck, Montana is a bit of a stretch from Nevada, Arizona, it's easy how the accident and the location and stuff like that would have been confused way back in 1936.
Absolutely. Folktale, babies. I mean, it's scary.
Yeah. We've got some pictures of the Fort Peck Dam collapse and also of the Hoover Dam being all spectacular on our socials. Make sure you go and have a look. See?
I've got it right here. I'm doing it as
I spoke. Now, what I'm going to do really quickly, I'm going to cross off Hoover Dam off my high-tech list of stories because I included it in something. That is not the end of our episode, though, folks. In fact, some might say it's only the beginning because I want to talk to you about some more construction cock-ups.
Yeah, there hasn't been enough cock-ups yet.
No, I agree. So you ready for some?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Ambition often outstrips reason when it comes to building. After all, who can resist adding their mark to the landscape of any city or countryside? Trying to achieve such a feat often leads to lasting glory, but it can just as often lead to truly disastrous blunders. Any number of factors might cause engineering to go awry. It has happened for thousands of years, and it does continue to happen to this day. But sometimes the main factor is plain negligence or thinking about form over function in every area. Here are a few examples of when engineering and structure utterly failed and the destruction that they caused.
Oh, I see what you did there.
See what I did there? Here we go. We're going to Tacoma in Washington. Ready?
Hello, Tacoma.
Tacoma! Now, the cost of this project was $11 million. It was constructed in 1938 to 1940. The issue with this project was flexibility and unstable cables. I like saying that. And the date of the incident was 1940. Also known as Galloping Gertie, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge in Washington collapsed only 4 months after opening for public use. The bridge spanned a nearly mile-wide Puget River, making it the 3rd longest suspension bridge in the world behind the Golden Gate Bridge and the George Washington Bridge.
Yeah.
Some bridge facts for you all. Take those to your next dinner party. Now, its length was not what made the bridge so famous that it continues to fascinate engineers and physics professors to this day. It was the fact that even under moderate wind speeds, the bridge would undulate like a sine wave. Now, that's a maths term. Don't care for it, but I'm keeping it.
Don't care for this science business.
That's mathematics. Yuck. Construction workers noticed problematic bucking even when building the bridge, leading to its famous nickname of Galloping Gertie.
I love that they're like, this is looking a bit dangerous, and they just keep going.
Keep on building. Now, whilst the original designer intended to create greater stability with a more standard design, the cost was exorbitant, around $200 million more in today's money. So it was a bit more, but they went a cheaper option using plate girders, and then that got approved. The girders, however, were only 1/3 the height of the originally proposed trusses, which resulted in a disproportionate depth to width ratio.
Science.
Science, mathematics, physics. Now, as a result, the bridge was extremely flexible and vulnerable to high-speed winds. When a 40-mile-per-hour wind struck on November 7th in 1940, the bridge started to twist and buck wildly. The bridge finally gave way, snapping the support cables and dropping into the river below.
Okay, I fart harder than that.
40 miles an hour. Galloping Gertie would not cope. She's
It's-
going down. She is going down. I have a thing, where you can't perceive things if it didn't happen. Like, for example, if you stood at near a suspension bridge and you thought,
Sure.
shit, I wonder what it'd be like if this collapsed. And that's just so, you know what I mean? Like, it's so ridiculous and huge and catastrophic that you can't
Mm.
really imagine what that would be like. To think that this bridge, 40-mile-an-hour winds, and these humongous suspension cables whipping around and snapping, and then the whole bridge falling into the river,
Yeah.
that's what gets me in terms of size things.
It's why we are fascinated with seeing that in special effects in movies and things, because that's as close as we're ever going to get unless you see it in person, and it's just the sheer scale of it
Yeah,
is
and
overwhelming.
it's overwhelming. You can't sort of comprehend it. It's weird. It's kind of like me with heights. Like, I don't do like from like three stories up. If I'm standing right on the edge of something, I get a bit vertigo-y and weird. But
Yeah,
put me in an aeroplane and I'll stare out the window all day long. Like, I have no concept of how far the aeroplane is from the ground. So it doesn't,
sure.
I'm like, nah, I don't know. It's pretty far. I'm pretty sure if I fell out, it'd hurt on the way down, but I just can't comprehend. Let me take you though, Dom. Forget about aeroplanes. Forget about Galloping Gertie. We're now off to
Mm.
Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh
Kansas
my
City.
goodness, we're not in Kansas
We're
no
not
more.
Well, we are. We're going to Kansas right
Actually,
now.
sorry, Dorothy.
Oh. The cost of this project, $50 million. It was constructed in 1978 to 1980. Now, the issue with this project was weight distribution, and the date of the incident was 1981.
Oh, I've heard I've got a bit of a weight distribution problem too sometimes. That's okay.
I was going to make a little gag in there myself, and then I thought, well, I'm going to be kind to myself today. But thank you for taking the
I
bait
took the
and
hit
running
for
it.
you.
You did, thank you. Now, this one was quite, yeah. Check out again our socials. All the pictures of these are in there. This one, I thought, yeah, this is quite scary, definitely.
Okay.
Now, whilst most structural failures are noticed in time, the Hyatt Regency in Kansas City, Missouri, wasn't so fortunate. On July 17th, 1981, 114 people were killed and an additional 200 people were injured when the fourth floor elevated walkway collapsed and fell on another walkway 2 floors down, eventually into the lounge below.
Ooh.
When the hotel opened in 1980, it boasted a sleek and elegant design, which included a multi-story atrium with 3 suspended walkways running through it. Very cool. If you look at the pictures before it fell down, very, very cool. The walkways were anchored by 1.5-inch steel rods, but the real issue lay in the change from a single set of hanger rods threaded through the upper walkways to a double-story rod system. Oh, God, how many times do I have to tell these people about rod systems? I just can't. It was anchored to the upper walkways themselves, adding immense and undue stress. The design was incapable of meeting the minimum safety requirements, but it went unnoticed in the building process.
Whoopsie.
Unfortunately, the collapse occurred during a Friday night tea dance in the lobby. So
Oh.
that's why there were so many victims in this disaster. The local police chief, Norman A. Karen, said it was the worst disaster that he had seen in his 25 years as a police officer. And I didn't
Yeah.
had one. That's bad.
I do remember this one. I've seen a documentary on it or footage or something about it. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
shocking.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. Definitely fits into our construction cock-ups.
Yeah, that was a cock up.
Yeah. We're leaving Kansas, Dom. We're off to Boston, Massachusetts.
Bastard.
Boston. The cost of this project was $175 million. It was
They're just getting
constructed.
more and more expensive.
It's more pricey. It was constructed from 1968 to 1976. So it was quite a long time for building this project. I'm really on the ball today. Now, the issue with this particular project was flexibility and poor glass integrity. And the date of the incident was 1973. Now, keep in mind, the construction wasn't completed until 1976, so they've picked up on some gosh darn issues with this building.
Okay.
As the tallest building in Boston, the John Hancock Tower, it's now simply known as 200 Clarendon Street, was mired in controversy even before it was built. Initial plans showed that it would cast a shadow over Trinity Church, which led to public outcry, and they had to quickly redesign the building. So, like, you can't cast a shadow over a church.
Oh my
Illegal.
God.
So
Fucking
fix it
hell.
up for us.
Get
Now,
over it.
despite this effort, the building continued to trouble the public. During construction, the blue reflective glass used for the building started to fall off from various heights, forcing the police to close off the area around the building. Subsequent research in wind tunnels, imagine being a wind tunnel expert.
Yeah.
Now
That'd be cool.
yeah, it would. They identified additional integrity issues such as twisting in high-powered winds.
Ooh.
No tanks. That is one of my fears, is to be in a building and feeling it move. No thank you. The real issue, however, so we've got blue shit falling off at all, times and whatever, that, having to close off the area around it, and then the wind tunnel bits and bobs. The real issue, though, was that the building expanded and contracted wildly due to the differences in temperature inside and outside the building. The reflective material caused the glass to be stiffer than expected, and instead of absorbing motion, it transferred it and just shook the window out of place. So they're just going pop, 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 pop. All the windows just fall out. When someone pops the heater on level 36, windows just fall out down onto the street. Now, all 10,344 window panes were replaced by single-paned, heat-treated panels, helping to inflate the cost of the project. However, during that time that it took them to identify and fix that problem, sheets of plywood replaced many of the missing panes, earning this building the nickname Plywood Palace.
Oh, that's a bad look, eh?
Yeah, there's a picky on our soch. Have a look. It does not look pretty. That's for darn sure. Fortunately, wouldn't that be one of those things where you're like, at the beginning, should we use the right kinds of windows for this? Nah, let's just put 10,344 shit windows, because that won't be a problem. That'll be fine.
Yeah, that was Trevor, the intern.
Yeah, it was. He's like,
pick a glass.
Yeah, this one's nice with the blue reflective. Let's get that one. Perfect. So Plywood Palace, another, expensive issue. Wasn't quite as bad in the sense of our Hyatt hotel in terms of victims, thankfully. Not a lot of these have a lot of victims, which is good, because I wanted to focus more on the cock-upness of the construction rather than the casualties of the cock-ups.
Yeah.
For now, we're off to Kansas City, Missouri. Again, welcome. We're back. We're doing
flying backwards and forwards.
We're doing a round trip. The cost of this project, only $23 million. So this is a little cheap one. It was constructed in 1972 to 1974. The issue, poor drainage. The date of the incident was 1979. So that is 5 years between the completion of construction and the incident. As the new home of the Kansas City Kings, the arena was hailed as innovative design that features seamless design. That's a terrible sentence.
That's horrid English.
I did not write it. I copied and pasted it like a true plagiarist. Now, the architect for this particular Kansas City Kings arena won an honor award from the American Institute of Architects. Yeah. How embarrassing for you. Because a few years later, after the honor award was honored for the person, only a few years later, the roof collapsed on the arena because there was a heavy rainstorm. And the whole thing just fell in because this architect was like, I want it to look pretty. I don't need it to work. That's what we're doing with this. Now, ironically, architects from the AIA, which I've decided as of this moment is the Architects Institute of America. That actually could be right. I was going to try and come up with something funny. That sounds pretty accurate. They visited the building during its 1979 convention only one day before the roof fell in.
Oh, I was about to say it was going to fall in on the ceremony or
Yeah,
something like that.
I know. But no, they saw it the day before and they're like, looks good to me. And then the next day they all had some
Ooh,
significant hair on their
ooh,
face.
there's a drip.
Now, the issue, Dom, is that the roof was flat. It raised concerns about how that could handle the weather. As such, the design included a temporary reservoir to reduce stormwater runoff, but it only had 8 drains, idiots, despite the local code requiring at least 8 times as many.
Oh, yeah,
What is
that's a
8 times 8, please? Call it.
46,
Great.
58, 56, something like that.
Well, that's not enough. That 8 is not enough. They needed 8 times 8, and they didn't do it. So as a result,
64 even.
64.
Times
We are
tables were
so
not
good at
my...
We are so good at math. I love it. Now, as a result, the reservoir could only contain 2 inches of rain before it started overflowing. So not really a reservoir, more of like a cup.
It's not much of a cock. It's a
I
bit of a chode.
Correct. I would not be calling that a reservoir. I would be calling that, yes, a chode's worth of water
A
could be
piddle.
held. I'm going to start. I'm going to start using Chodsworth as a because it sounds like a lord that lives in London. I'm Mr.
Yeah.
Chodsworth. How are you today? But also an accurate measurement because everybody would know roughly how big that is. So as a result of that, 2 inches, the Chodsworth of water being held in the reservoir, the storm that happened dumped more than double that much rain. And the collapse was so violent from the pressure of the roof falling down that it actually blew out some of the walls. So it
Oh, yeah.
just came straight down and then blew out the whole side of it as well.
This is why don't keep your farts in, folks. You're
No.
going to blow out.
Yeah. Or your 40-mile-per-hour farts are going to knock down Gallop and Gertie. We've been there, done that.
Yeah. And you end up just burping them out anyway, so you may as well fart it
You may
out.
as well fart them out. Are you ready to go international? Wow, that's a word. International.
Yeah.
International.
Let's
Want to go
do
overseas?
it. Let's get on a
go to
plane.
London, England. You sound like you're from London. This project cost more than $250 million. So the most expensive we've discussed so far. A little bit more modern, 2009 to 2014. Now, the issue that this building had was heat amplification and a wind tunnel. This one was one of my favourite ones to learn about. The date of this incident was 2013, so that's only 10 years ago, folks. Now, a common issue in design and construction results from the way that light can reflect and even amplify off glass and metal. The curved design of the Vdara Hotel in Las Vegas, designed by Raphael Vignoli, basically turned the giant building into a humongous magnifying glass. It intensified the light so much that it harmed hotel guests and it earned the nickname Death Ray Hotel. That's a great start. However, it's Vignoli's building in London, 20 Fenchurch Street, that really stands out, not only for its death ray effect, but an additional wind tunnel effect, turning the neo-futurist building into a total menace. Constructed between 2009 and 2014, the building earned the nickname Walkie Talkie Centre due to its appearance. I love how people just look at stuff and they're like, yeah, it's the Walkie Talkie Centre. It looks like that.
It's not a compliment.
Yeah, it's not. The concave shape of the building meant that when sunlight shone directly on it, it acted as a mirror and focused the light onto the street below. Now, temperatures reached over 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's like 50 to 60 degrees Celsius, isn't it? Who knows? We're not good at the maths.
It's hot as fuck. It's boiling shit.
It's boiling shit. Correct.
Cooking.
So that is, and it's directed onto the street below. Now, famously, this effect melted a man's Jaguar, his car that was sitting on the street, not at the
Oh, not his pet.
Not his pet. And it got so hot that journalists were able to fry an egg on the street, on the sidewalk.
Oh.
That's how poorly, how, how, how badly constructed this was. Now, Mr. Lindsay, this is my little additional story when I deep dived into the famous Jaguar melting story. Mr. Lindsay, director of tiling company Moderna Contracts Limited, said, I was walking down the road and I saw a photographer taking photos and I asked, what's happening? The photographer asked me, have you seen that car? The owner won't be happy. And I said, I am the owner. Oh, crikey, that's awful. The wing mirror, panels, and Jaguar badge had all melted, Mr. Lindsay said. You can't believe something like this would happen, he added. They've got to do something about it. It could be dangerous. Imagine if the sun reflected on the wrong part of the body. On the windscreen, there was a note from the constructions company saying, your car's buckled. Could you give us a call? In a joint statement, developers, Land Securities and Canary Wharf said, we are aware of the concerns regarding the light reflecting from 20 Fenchurch Street and are looking into the matter. The building eventually had to install screens at certain points to prevent the reflection of direct sunlight. Additionally, the building caused increased wind activity at the street level. Remember our wind tunnel problem?
Yeah.
The winds were so strong that they were blamed for blowing over street signs, trolleys, and pedestrians.
In order.
You could not walk down that street. Oh, okay. I've got one more for our regular listeners.
Kate, just want to give you some mad props on your amazing variety of British accents.
British
we had
accent?
it like, yeah, Maggie Thatcher is pissing herself in the waiting room. She slid right off her chair. She's so happy.
She has. She's loved it. She was there. She felt like she was at home. Then you love. All right. Sorry to anyone listening from the UK. The final story that I want to tell you about, we're going to go back a ways, Dom, more to when you and I were born. We're off to Rome in 27 AD.
Oh,
now, the issue with this particular construction was it was rushed construction and untested integrity, which is often how I approach meeting new people. What is your untested integrity? The date of this incident, 27 AD, as I said, we're there, it's happening. Ancient Rome was famous for its bloody gladiator fights. But one of the most horrific disasters in history had nothing to do with the combatants on the ground. What? One notable venue for gladiator games was an amphitheatre erected in Fidenae. Yep, that's what it's called now. At the bidding of an entrepreneur named Attilius. Great name.
Ooh.
Despite his wealth, he aimed for quick construction over a sturdy construction. And according to some sources, how reliable they are from 27 AD, hard to say, but according to some sources, he urged the builders to use cheap materials, mainly wood, to build the stadium. And it was erected on unstable foundations.
Oh, poor
Bad
choice,
start.
boy.
Attilius, come on, my guy. Most of the information about the disaster, because I know you were curious, it comes from ancient texts, whoa, such as ones by Tacitus, and Tiberius, but they tell a singular story. When 50,000 people flocked to Attilius' stadium to watch a gladiator fight, 20,000 of the audience members fell to their death as the seating collapsed. Many of the remaining patrons were also severely injured.
Oh.
Following the incident, the Senate banned anyone from building a stadium, I like this, unless their wealth succeeded 400,000 sesterces. I'm guessing that was the currency then. And the stadium had to pass a safety inspection.
Love it. Even back then.
Yeah. They're like, no, we're going to do something about this. That's absolutely bloody crackerjack.
20,000 people was a lot of people back then.
That's a lot of people.
Generation just gone.
That is significant. Now, Dom, it's your choice. I mean, you can pick whether or not I go for, because I've got two more that I could talk about. So you pick. I've got three more. Remember, I had to make my text bigger because I can see no more. So
Yeah.
it turns out that, seeing as I'm currently up to page 21 of my documents.
Fucking hell.
All right, here we go. I've got 3 more. So, Dom, you pick the last one for this episode. The other 2, plus my in-depth pop culture reference, will be saved for Patreon.
Okay.
Would you like to travel to Jumadian City in China? Would you like to go back to Boston, Massachusetts? Or would you like to go to Italy?
I like Italy and I like Boston, so let's do China. Not that I don't like China, but
I wasn't expecting that. And what a way to frame it. That was great. Not that I don't like China. I really like Italy and I love Boston. Oh my God, are you kidding? Let's do the China.
There's no logic in my choice.
I love it. Okay, we'll go to China. Welcome, everybody, to China. This particular project, constructed in 1951 to 52 with further work in 1954, the issue was record flooding and lack of overflow options. Can you guess what kind of project we're going to talk about, Dom? We're doing full circle here.
Is it a dam?
Hot damn, you got it. Now, the date of this incident was August 1974. The deadliest... I just inhaled so deeply.
Oh, poor
Excuse
Kate.
me.
I'll have water for you.
The deadliest structural failure in history occurred in China when the supposedly, I love this, supposedly unbreakable iron dam in Jumadian City burst in 1975.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the iron dam. That's ironic.
Not so iron.
No. Now, built in the early 1950s, the dam was built under the supervision of Soviet engineers. A flood in 1954 forced the government to extend their existing dams, including a 3-meter addition to the Bangchao Dam walls. When cracks started to appear in the dam, they were repaired with advice from the Soviets again, and additional reinforcements were added. The engineers claimed the dam could withstand a once-in-1,000 years flood. The chief designer of the dam was vocal that the design was flawed, though. Now, he recommended 12 gates to handle the overflow of water, but he was ignored and only 5 gates were built. Now, we know what happens when you don't add enough stuff and more than a chode's worth of water comes rushing through. Other dams in the same system had similar reductions. So, as a result, in 1974, record rainfall of nearly 7.5 inches. That's a lot.
That's not bad. That's no joke.
Now, here we go. 7.5 inches of rain per hour.
Whoa.
That's almost 42 inches in a day. I don't know how many dams can handle that. It started...
Don't try, folks. Don't try.
Now, those 42 inches strain the dam to its limit. Requests to open the dam and relieve the pressure were rejected due to flooding elsewhere. After another 2 days of rain, that's 84 inches, the dam broke.
She sure did.
Now, I'm going to stop laughing. Thousands died.
No, you don't, because it's funny as fuck. It's
thousands
like a
died.
dirty
I'm so
story.
sorry. No, thousands died in the initial flooding. Oh, far out. The government intentionally destroyed several other dams with airstrikes to try and divert the water and reduce the damage, but it was too late. Thousands more died, and those who survived suffered from famine and disease without food or shelter. A total of more than 200,000 people died of the catastrophe. So I guess the old engineer that claimed that it could withstand a once-in-1,000 years flood can't withstand 84 inches over 2 days, can ya?
No.
Yeah, jingles. That, Dom, then brings me to the last 2 stories, plus my pop culture reference that you want to hear about Italy. You want to hear about a really interesting story that I enjoyed from Boston, and a bit of pop culture. Do yourselves a favour. Sign up to Patreon. Pay $5. I might even do some more accents. Don't let that put you off.
Well done, Kate. It was a jam-packed episode with a lot of cocks and
Yes, a lot
cocking
of
ups.
cock-ups. A lot of cock-ups, a lot of cock reference. It was just a real cock-up itself, really.
It was all of it. So, folks, as Kate said, you should come join us on our Patreon and come get the bonus episode, which we are just about to record. But for those that are signing off, sorry,
We'll miss you.
we can't. We love you.
We
and
love
we'll
you.
see you next week.
See you next week. Love you. Bye. What an ending.
I don't know what that was. It wasn't the sound of a cock up, but anyway.
I liked it.